Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out RV Daydream. As you guys may or may not know, I have two other channels, FoxBoss9 and LeboView. On those channels I have reviews of products and I also have repairs. Now most of my RV repairs are now done on this channel. However, there were quite a few repairs and items that I reviewed for RVs on my other channels previous. So what I'm going to do with you now is share with you one of those videos.
I've been riding on a daydream.
Alright YouTube, if you have a Coleman AC unit like this, I'm going to show you a couple tricks to mounting it and making sure that it's working efficiently. One of them is to clean it up top, which I've already shown in one of my other videos. I want to show you something inside you need to look at. Alright, so as you've seen outside, that was a pretty typical air conditioner that almost all older RVs have. This is a 1992. There's a couple things that you want to look at. Now I'm just putting the roof on this camper, just finishing it up. One of the things I had to do is reinstall the air conditioner. When I reinstalled the air conditioner, there's a couple things that you got to pay attention to. Whenever you put this ductwork on, now this is the newer ones have a flexible ductwork. But whenever you put this ductwork on, make sure that there's some sort of a sealant that it is being pressed up into. This outer shell that I'm touching here needs to go into some sort of a sealant to seal it off. So whenever this discharge is blowing out cold, it doesn't have a way to work its way back up and into the unit. And I'll show you why here in a second. Also, the other thing that you want to do is make sure that there's no leaks, and that's what this aluminum tape is, that there's no leaks from this ductwork inside of the unit, again, through this crack all the way around. Now, it may look like that it's excessive or something to that effect, but there's a reason behind all that. That is all the nice cold air that the air conditioners work so hard to get and generate is coming out of this port. When it comes out of this port, it comes into this area. It's forced into this area, and then it goes out this way, or it goes out this way. If there's a gap here, or anywhere for that matter, all the way around, and the same up there, if there's a gap there, that cold air, instead of being forced out and along this tunnel that's created between this lower support unit and this black area, instead of it coming out there the way it should, it'll go into this area. Now this area here is where the return air goes. This is where the warm air from the camper goes into to be sucked up into the unit, cooled, and then pressed out here. The same on this side. Now this is where it becomes important. This wire here, this should be clean, shouldn't have much dust on it or anything, is what senses your temperature of your return air coming from the camper. You can probably figure out at this point, if you're leaking air anywhere, here or up in there, and it's blowing cold air to where this sensor is seeing any of that cooler temperature, it's just going to cause your unit to cycle off. It's going to think that the air that is the return air is nice and cool. So you have to make sure that's sealed off, number one. Number two is make sure that your gasket that runs along here on both sides is in very good shape. And whenever you bolt your housing for the shroud, that it's up against it, that it seals off against the gasket. And you can see mine's gone. I'm going to have to replace it. But there should be a gasket here at whatever thickness is needed to compress against that housing. Basically what you're doing is when this cold air comes out, you're creating a tunnel, and this black stuff is to help keep condensation from forming on this metal. Now, if there's warm air passing on this side and there's really cold air on this side, there'd be condensation in here. So what they do is they make this to where there's a pad that insulates, and you're basically creating a tunnel. Cold air comes out, hits that shroud, that black bottom here, and then gets forced out of the holes that are on the vent sides of the shroud. If there's a break in this seal, again, that cold air will just hit, and instead of being forced out the ends, will just leak past this and right up into the warm air return. Same on this side, and when that cold air passes and cools this sensor, then again, it's going to shut off thinking that the camper's cool enough at that point. So what I'm going to do is replace those gaskets. I'm going to bolt this back up and test it. Now, whenever you're testing for cold air here, it's not too hard to do. You can just reach up your hand in here and you can feel if cold air is coming out. The same up top, you can feel if there's cold air coming out. However, whenever you have the shroud on to check that this is being sealed correctly, there's a couple things you can do. You can mark it with some sort of a white chalk, your gasket, when your gasket's in place. You can mark it with some sort of a white chalk or a white substance, something that's easily transferred from one material to another. And then when you bolt your shroud up to the air conditioning unit, you should be able to see that white line the entire distance where it presses up against here. Or, like in my case, all I did was listen while the air was running at full blast, and I would push the shroud up from underneath here up against the unit a little bit harder, and I could hear the air change. I could hear that air was whistling past this point right here. So I know that I need a new gasket. So I have some gasket material. It don't have to be anything high-tech. It's just a real cheap foam, and it's just an air blocker. That's all it is. So just a tip. I wanted to show you what you need to look for. And as always, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Bye.